Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the November 15th Town of Lake Clark Shores Council meeting for November 15th, 2022. Take a roll call, please.
Mayor Paul Shalhoub,
Present.
Vice Mayor Robert Shalhoub.
Here.
President Pro Tem Gregory Freebold.
Here.
Councilmember Valteen Rodriguez.
Here.
Councilmember Robert Gonzalez.
Here.
All right, thank you. Pastor, would you be so kind as to come up and lead us in an invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you.
Absolutely. Let's look to the Lord. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord shines upon you. See, darkness covers the earth, and a thick darkness is over the people. But the Lord rises upon you, and his glory appears over you. Heavenly Father, in this place, this day, may we honor you and love you with all our heart, with all our mind, and with all our strength. And may we love our neighbor as we love ourselves. May your Spirit unite us, Father, to bring you honor and bring you glory, for it is our desire to serve you well. We come before you in thy precious and holy name. Amen. Amen. Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you very much. Always such beautiful words. Really appreciate you. All right. Take a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, we got some presentations to do
I
today.
don't see one of the recipients here yet.
Oh, he's not here yet? All right. Well, we're gonna skip past the presentation for a moment, and we're gonna go to the sewer financing presentation by Rodney Walton of the Florida League of Cities. Rodney, would you be so kind as to come on up? Thank you.
Good evening, Council. My name is Rodney Walton, and I'm with the Florida League of Cities. And I'm doing a presentation today on the Florida Municipal Loan Council. All right. So the Florida Municipal Loan Council, or the FMLC, here that I'm going to talk to you about today is one of our many trusts that we provide for cities and municipalities. And it's one of the newest trusts, actually edging out one of our investment trusts by a few years. It started in 1998, and it basically gives small to mid-sized governments a chance to finance projects. And we exist between a financial advisor that you're going to sign on a contract with a city, and an entity, a city that might do everything with cash and grants. So this is our program really works well if you're coming out to the debt marketplace. Not so often, every once in a while, you don't really have those types of resources. So we have let's see here. Yes, so we have two programs in the Florida Municipal Loan Council: the bond issue program, or the formerly known as the fixed rate bond program, was the main program that was in the FMLC, and it's validated over $1 million in debt. The bank loan program, or formerly known as the competitive capital access program, offers request for proposal services for bank loans. And it's done most of the stuff more recently. And I'm going to get into that and how this program is always ever evolving. We're always trying to look to the cities because you guys created this program, wanted us to create it. And so we're always looking to you for guidance on what you need. And so in this 22 years, 24 years, we've loaned up to $1.2 million of debt to help cities build projects and do different things. to further their growth. So as you know, a lot of times, municipalities can lack the amount of resources to hire a full team of professionals. And so we want to be able to provide those professionals for you guys in our program. So our board of directors is up there on that slide, and they make decisions in the program with recommendations from our financial advisor, our bond counsel, and the Florida League of Cities. And you can see they're from all over the state, different size cities in different areas. You might not be able to see this chart, but it's just an organization of all the different people that are involved in our program and how we've built it out over the years. I'm going to dive into a little more in depth to the different pieces of the program. So Bryant Miller Olive is our bond counsel. As you can see here on this slide, these are the majority of the people that you're going to work with. Jason Breath probably is the number one attorney that you'll work with in the program, although Chris Rowe has a lot of experience with assessments, and so you might, with your specific project, have some time with him as well. Public Resources Advisory Group is our financial advisor in the program, and you could see a lot of experience and years with PRAG for short, and primarily use Mickey Johnston as he has a lot of experience. He's the primary contact, but also Wendell is involved as well. So with the bond counsel, there's quite a few other players involved. There's quite a bit of things that go into basically writing a bond. And so disclosure counsel helps with federal securities law and disclosure documents related to bond issuance. And so there's a lot of complex nature with a bond transaction that they're able to help with. The trustee, BNY Mellon, they hold the funds from the bond for disbursement, and it could take a few weeks, and there's some investment options potentially that they have available. And then there's an arbitrage consultant that makes sure tax-exempt proceeds from the bond deal are not invested and achieving higher returns. That's against the rules, and so they have to come into play and make sure that that's being taken advantage of properly. Another professional player that could be on the slide is the Digital Assurance Certification, or DAC. They help with continuing disclosure, because a lot of times these bonds have a lot to be able to be subject to the MSRB, Municipal Securities Rulemaking Board rules. There's a lot of audit compliance and anti-dilution tests and stuff, having to look at your debt to income, and so they help with that. So if you want to, next slide here, looking at the staff involved in our program, that's me up there. I'm one of the main people that you'll be working with, but you also, Paul Shimon is another person that does touch the program. So kind of diving in here a little bit more in depth, the bond issue program, just to kind of summarize, is the main program. And so there's a lot of times it's important to note that this is longer financing. And so this allows entities to finance up to 30 years. So with this, generally interest rates, they're going to be lower, but the cost of issuance is going to be higher because there's more professional players in the bond issue program. And so that's probably the main reason why it's going to be higher. So I think that's an important thing to note. But we report, and we do a lot of ongoing administrative service when it comes in the bond issue program that actually saves you money if you were to do this on your own or hire other professionals. We kind of do extra things to help out with some of the statements and some of the arbitrage rebate calculations built into our program. You don't have to hire someone separately. Now, the bank loan program, it's a competitive request for proposal process. And what we're doing here is we're kind of looking at your needs and the project. with the bond counsel, bond attorney, as well as the financial advisor. And we're building an RFP to send out to banks. And we send it out to 40 banks. And we're looking to get you guys a great deal when it comes to interest rates and little good old fashioned capitalism, get everybody to compete against each other, as well as getting favorable terms for you all, so that you might need to, if there's a prepayment or something that was needed, or whatever those needs are and the structure is, we are able to help with that in this program. So a little bit further, we're hiring all the professionals and we're drafting the loan agreements. We've had these documents and these ordinances in place for many years, and we've utilized them in many different financings that I'll get to in a second of all the history. And these loans are usually between 10 to 20 years is generally the appetite of the duration that banks want to finance. And so it could be 10, 15, or 20 years, sometimes 25, not usually, just depends on the situation. And like I said, 30, usually the bond issue is more popular. So if this is kind of what's happened over the last 24 years, showing the different programs over history in the Florida Municipal Loan Council. And I've kind of touched on this a little bit already, but just in a graph form, we had the capital access, or excuse me, the direct loan program and the commercial paper were other things that we offered at other times. And we have since then closed those programs. And if you see up there also, you can kind of see that the bank loan program has become more popular as of late. Generally speaking, with smaller to mid-sized entities, bonds are not always the right fit. So that's why the bank loan program has grown in popularity. And that's one of the things that we do, and I'll get to here in a second, why it's important that you understand some of the regulatory changes too. The bank loan program got popular right around 2013 when stuff changed with municipal advisor registration. And so it's really important, as we do have a municipal advisor in the program, which is our financial advisor, the Public Resources Advisory Group, that that we make sure that you guys sign an engagement letter, because we can't give specific advice to the program. I can't give specific recommendations regarding municipal financial or issuance of municipal securities, as well as our financial advisor PRAG. They can't do that until there's an engagement letter in place. And then we're able to look and give specific recommendations, looking over things. Until then, we just kind of provide general market understanding. We also, try to understand what you guys are trying to do, which we've had multiple conversations to make sure we're not wasting anybody's time in and kind of moving forward in this process. Continuing on here, so there's some online resources as part of the program, and I really like this last slide, or one of these last slides, about the borrowers. You can kind of see, if you look, you can't really see it, but if you look into the details, there's large and small cities that are involved in here. And if you look and do the math of all the financings that have happened versus the cities that actually, it's each city or entity uses the program 2.4 times in the 24 history. So it shows that cities have a positive experience, and they come back to utilize the program again when they need to issue more debt. If they're not, doing it in a short amount of time, they're kind of more doing it periodically throughout the time here. And so a little more information about closed loans. You can kind of see, I've kind of sliced this a couple different ways, but lots of different bond issues, more at the beginning of the program, totaling about $1 billion. The two programs that have kind of sunsetted in the Florida Municipal Loan Council, 11 loans totaling 60 million from 2007 to 2013. And then once the other legislation got into place, the bank loan program has closed 23 loans totaling 115 million. So you could see there, it's right around like 2.5 per year in that time frame. Closed loans in the last few years, there's just some examples of, if they're refinancing or specific projects, large size projects, smaller projects, and when they've closed. And most of them have been bank loans in there, as you can see. And then, moving into the last two slides, I think this is kind of more of the next steps and understanding of kind of where we're at in the market. So it's difficult to provide a market analysis currently, and there's a couple reasons for that. And as you guys can see, there's inflation risk that's causing interest rates to move upwards. And so in the next few months, stuff could continue to change slightly with interest rates. And so we just want to be careful at not projecting what exactly is going to happen with interest rates and with the Fed raising interest rates. And also too, there's not as many banks, if we were to utilize the bank loan program, that go out 20 years. So we'd have to kind of do a little bit of, we do a little bit of a survey of banks and trying to understand who wants to go 20 years, who has an appetite for the revenue stream that you guys are looking to put forth, as well as with this current economic climate and banks being kind of towards the end of their calendar year. It's hard because they're kind of over budget a lot of times, and so they don't always want to comment right now in the calendar year. They want to wait until the next year where they kind of have a full budget and they have full resources at their disposal. So that's what's going to make it a little bit difficult until 2023 to kind of understand, and you guys get a little bit closer to providing that general market information of an interest rate range for the project. And then lastly, last slide here, and I'll open up to questions, is next steps is, there's that engagement letter. I think you guys might have a copy of it up there. If not, I wasn't able to print it out, but
We have a copy.
you have a copy, okay. And a letter of intent from us, and that just kind of outlines like the services that we're going to provide, and kind of allows us to move forward. The reimbursement resolution is an interesting thing because it kind of exists outside of these engagement letters. It's more of what bond counsel would draft up. That just makes sure if you're starting to spend money on the project, that you're able to put it towards the loan proceeds in the loan that we be able to secure for you guys. So we don't want you guys to spend too much money and then not being able to use that and put that forth to the loan for the loan to reimburse it. And so you can go back 60 days from when you pass that resolution to be able to collect any proceeds that are spending that's made on project oriented or project directed items for the loan, in order to make sure that they can all be collected and put forth towards that. So yeah, do you guys have any questions for me?
I'll start with Councilman Gonzalez.
Thank you so much, Rodney, for your presentation and spending a little bit of time with us back in Hollywood for FLC and the annual conference. Thank you for bringing us a little bit up to date in terms of what's going on in terms of the loan versus the bond. I know we've had a lot of residents asking questions about what may be the better avenue. You brought up this question of inflation and interest rates. I'm kind of nervous as to where the rates are going to go in the next 5 years and how that's going to impact this project. What are the rates now that you're seeing for some of these loans that you've recently closed?
Yeah, they're generally in the 4% range. And again, it really depends on the specific appetite for risk. So You know, that's something that could change with interest rates going up. But the good news is, like, once we are ready to move forward in this loan, we lock the interest rate in.
Sure.
So if it continues to go up, it's locked in for the life of the loan. It's not an adjustable rate. It's a fixed rate, you know, loan. And so that's the good news. It's just hard to know in the short term, before, whenever you guys are looking to break ground or start the project, look to go out to the marketplace, maybe February or March, just knowing where, you know, if it's going to be 4, or you're going to have something maybe where you only have a couple banks because it's the 20-year time horizon. And, you know, there's just a couple things like that we just want to make sure and be careful that we give, like, it's going to be exactly this, and then that changes
Right.
with time.
I guess more of just a statement for the council's edification. It looked at the historical analysis for U.S. interest rates over the 220 years. And it was about 15, 20 years ago when we first started talking about this project, and those rates were about 4 or 5%. So it's kind of in line, you know, it's still historically low, 4 or 5%, as opposed to the timeline. So, but thank you very much, Rodney.
Not the cost of goods.
Not the cost of goods. No, obviously not. But, you know, it's obviously better to secure a loan if that's the intention.
But during that period, the rates were as low as 2%.
Right. In 2008, it was 2.87%.
Thank you, Councilman Gonzalez. Councilman Rodriguez?
Yeah, hey, Rodney, thank you. Good to meet you again. A couple questions about other borrowers. I noticed that you've got Palm Springs, Lake Park on the list, local cities, there's another one, Wellington. Do you know what those projects were for, just off the top of your head?
I don't. Some of those sounds like they could be. I know we helped Wellington a lot when they first incorporated,
Okay.
and so that could have been before my time. We're actually closing a loan on Thursday for the Westgate Belvedere CRA for Palm Beach County. Some of the road widenings and adjustments, and so they didn't quite make it on the list.
So you actually offer services to CRAs as well?
Yes. Any kind of governmental entity or special district, we do offer services to them. The entity Pinecrest has actually used our program the most. I think they're at 10 or 11 loans in the 24-year history. Yeah, so there's some in this area and then some elsewhere. So good question.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate it. That's all I have.
Thank you. President Pro Tem Preble.
Both of my questions I had have been answered. Thank you again for your time. Nice to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you
So I'm
guys.
good.
Vice Mayor?
Again, Rodney, it was good seeing you. Thank you very, very much. Give our best to Paul.
Yeah, we'll do. Thank you guys so much for your time, and I appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. We're going to go back to the presentation side here. And President Pro Tem Preble, can you give some background on these presentations?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I have invited 3 young citizens here tonight to recognize them for their work that we did on the 8th of October, which was a Saturday, for the International Lake Cleanup, which these young folks attended. And I was extremely impressed. They did not know each other, the 2 brothers and sisters, of course, but I was surprised how well they got along. They worked as a team. I was so surprised. All I did was supervise. They did everything. They got out of the boat. As we recognize them, there will be some pictures. They were pointing out items. I had my concerns getting into some of these areas, and they're like, no, you can get the boat in there. Let's get in there. We'll get this. I see this. I see that. So these 3, and I'm going to call your names, and please come up front, because after I'm going to come down. We have first Killian Huertas. Please come forward. You can stand right there. And we have Elizabeth Seal. Please come right up. And we have Jacob Seal. So these young people got in the largest item into the boat. And we weighed it and it was close to 200 pounds. And they actually got that into the boat, up on the boat, secured it and put it in there. I gotta say Murphy did help a little bit. He was there supervising also. Murphy sniffed it out to make sure it was okay. So I'm gonna come down there and present you 3 young, outstanding people with these certificates of our appreciation and another little piece of our appreciation also. So. And if I'm not mistaken, Elizabeth, I just found out that you have recently been elected as the student government president. Is that true? How about a big hand? Or- I'm very proud of you guys. So I want to thank you for all of your help. As I said once before, I was so impressed on how you genuinely work together. You guys help each other. You just were a well-oiled machine. Come on, Carol. So on behalf of the mayor and the town of Lake Clark Shores Town Council, we are going to present this certificate to you, Jacob. Thank you. Okay. You, Killian. High five, everyone. And Elizabeth, last but not least, of course, to you. And as another token of our appreciation, there's a little something in there for young folks. Don't give it to your parents. Take it, and you get yourself something that you want for your own, because you really, really did earn it. And that's for you, young lady. So a big round of applause for you. Okay. You're welcome. Thank you.
I got to brag a little bit here. That's my niece and my nephew on the right, the Seals. Very proud of you two. Very proud of you as well, Killian. Congratulations. Got to get them started young, right? All right. We have no quasi judicial proceedings. We're going to move on to unfinished business. The second and final reading of ordinance 2022-05, prohibiting the discharge of air rifles and air guns within the town of Lake Clark Shores.
An ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Lake Clark Shores, Florida, amending Article 1 in general of Chapter 30 miscellaneous provisions and offenses by creating a new section 30-05 air guns, prohibiting the discharge of an air rifle or air gun in, on, or across from or into any public property within the town, providing for exceptions, providing for penalties, providing for inclusion in the Code of Ordinances, providing for severability, providing for an effective date, and for other purposes.
Thank you.
So moved.
No, we have audience comments first. Anyone in the audience want to comment on this ordinance? You can read the ordinance, sure. It's out there. You can go online and read it. Okay. Any audience comments on the ordinance? Sure. Yeah.
Jen Janowski, 7130 Pine Tree.
Good evening.
Hi. Where could we read the ordinance? I didn't see it online or in the hall. Yes.
Here.
We may have ran out of the ordinance. There were some on the counter. There is an ordinance on the bulletin board,
Is it in the packet?
and I can get you a copy of it. This is second reading of it. It's been noted before at prior meetings.
I didn't see it.
No, that's just the title.
2022-20, one out there, and 2022-22 out there. Might be first readings, but I didn't see it. 22-05. Oh, okay. Thank you.
Any other audience comments on the ordinance? Anything online?
No, sir.
I have a question.
Sure, come on up, sir.
Is this like shooting like rodents or iguanas and stuff like that on your property, or is this on someone else?
So this applies when you're shooting across the canal,
Right.
right? When you're shooting over public property.
Right, I got you. But you're still allowed to shoot them on your own property.
This
Yes.
doesn't impact your ability to shoot on your own property.
May I ask your name, please, and address?
Peter Rossi is my name, and I'm 7200 Venetian Way.
Thank you.
I just wanted to understand.
Yeah, no problem. It doesn't, this came about when multiple residents came to the council and advised of either random people getting on their boats and shooting at iguanas while on the canal, or these tours that were essentially being chartered by some individuals. And they go throughout the canal system and they shoot iguanas and hit people's homes and stuff like
I do live on Venetian, so that's probably the area where they were chartering a lot in that back area back there. I have noticed since then, I haven't had an iguana poop on my boat the entire time. And I used to have it all over my boat all the time.
The ordinance was really designed for public safety to prevent people on boats shooting at residential property, missing their target, hitting a window, or worse, hitting one of the residents. You can still use an air rifle or air gun on your property to humanely euthanize iguanas.
All right. Any further comments on this from the audience, online or here in person? All right, we'll move on to council action. Any discussion or motion that want to be made? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We're moving on to the Clean Water SRF Facility Plan for the Northern Utility Service Area Water Quality Improvement Septic Sewer Conversion Program by our very own Mr. Bill Lynch.
If I
Bill, are
might,
you out there? All right.
Mr. Mayor, if I might provide an introduction for Bill.
Sure.
Tonight you heard from Rodney about bank loans and bonds. There's a third funding opportunity that we have talked about for a couple of years now, and that's state revolving fund money. In order to qualify to apply for state revolving fund money, there's some hoops we have to jump through. And tonight's presentation by Bill and the ordinance following his presentation are some of those hoops we have to jump through in order to be able to apply for SRF funding. This does not commit us to doing any construction activities at all. We're still in that. We haven't quite figured out the funding mode yet, but this gives us another quiver, another arrow in our quiver, if you will, for finding inexpensive money. Rodney talked about 4% interest in bank loans. SRF funding will be 1.5% interest if we can qualify for it.
All right, thank you very much. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, Councilman. Thank you for the introduction, Dan. And Dan framed that really well. I'm going to give an overview that'll satisfy a public presentation requirement for this, for the Clean Water Act SRF program. Much of this you've seen in pieces before. I tried to consolidate it. You should have a handout that was given to each one of you. There were handouts out on the table. There's a handful more of them left if anyone would like one that didn't get one. I'll give them. Would you like one? And then Mary, there's a couple more.
Thank you.
All right. So as I mentioned, this is a compilation of information that you've seen in other forms in the past, and it's very specific to the requirement that Dan spoke to. And there is a requirement in the Florida Administrative Code that says that in order to be able to qualify for Clean Water Act SRF funding, you have to go through some very prescriptive activities, right? So on behalf of the town, with your guys' permission and support, we prepared a facilities plan. And the facilities plan is a very discrete document required by the Florida Administrative Code. And because the town had been proactive before engaging Jones Edmonds, we took advantage of previous work that was done for the town and then some effectiveness reviews that we did of it to be able to pull together your facilities plan. So first, as a town, and I work for a number of governments across the state that are looking at septic to sewer conversion, your steps are in line with how other municipalities are exploring being able to fund projects for septic to sewer conversion. And you've taken a number of steps over time. And we looked, one of the things we always look at is why, right? Why would we do this? And the town council made that very clear, that implementing the Northern Utility Service Area wide septic to sewer conversion program could be part of your Lake Clark Water Quality Improvement Initiative, right? And since I've had the opportunity to participate with the town, I know with Dan's leadership, there have been other activities that have been looked at. What can we do about the vegetation in the lake? What can we do about muck in the lake and other things like that? So this is one, but very significant initiative that the town could undertake if they so chose. And this is one way that you could fund that program, right? So right now, in terms of the overall project description, as I mentioned, we took advantage of work that was previously done in 2019, where the town had commissioned a master sewer plan that was prepared by AECom. And in that master sewer plan, AECom outlined specific alternatives, right? And of those alternatives, if you were to look on your page 2, you'll see a table in the middle that says collection system alternative cost comparison. So AECom looked at a gravity system, basically converting all the septic tanks within the Northern Utility Service Area of the town to gravity collection, and then collecting it and pumping it off to Palm Beach County's East Coast Regional Wastewater Reclamation Facility. They did it. Option 1 was by gravity. Option 2 was vacuum. And option 3 was leaving septic tanks as they were, right? Now, so when you look at the cost comparison for option 1 and option 2, at that time, the capital cost in 2019 was estimated about 22 million versus 21 million, pretty close between gravity and vacuum. And the septic tank conversion was essentially septic tanks are already in. They just said, you'll put in a handful more septic tanks and live with it. Now, option 3 doesn't satisfy your objective, the why, right? Water quality improvement isn't going to result from leaving the septic tanks in place. So that essentially do nothing alternative was one that had to be addressed, but isn't one that really is presented. So then when we got involved with the town, we looked at the master plan and we said, what can we do to and remember, it's a plan, right? So these weren't detailed designs. This is one organization's planning effort. We came in and looked at the plan and said, if we approach this in a hybrid approach, which is to provide gravity collection in a practical location, which is the southwest corner of the service area, which you refer to as the Micah Streets, right? Mm-hmm. We could then vacuum collect the rest of it, and we could drive some of the cost out of the program. So when we did that analysis, the current estimate or opinion of probable cost is 16.6 million versus 20. So right now, having done that analysis, the town then asked us to go ahead and move forward with the design, because as Dan had mentioned at previous meetings, shovel ready is key. When money becomes available, they don't look at people that go, we'd like to do this. They look at people that say, we're ready to do this, right? So right now, phase 2, which is identified as the Micah Streets or the Water Quality Improvement Phase 2 program, is design and bid ready. So those documents could be taken to the street or taken to agencies, which is essentially what is going to occur later this month, and go, the town is ready, right? If you'll fund this project, the town is ready for phase 2. Phase 3 through 5, which is going to be essentially the east side of the lake and the north side of Forest Hill Boulevard, is currently in design. It's 60% designed. We're a little bit ahead of schedule. We anticipate delivering 60% documents the beginning of December, so that, as we stay on schedule, those documents will also be ready, bid ready, sometime in early 2023. So then you'll have essentially the entire Northern Utility Service Area available for you to pose to funders as available for design. So if you look at your handout, I've talked through most of this, but you'll see a couple of different illustrations. And figure 1 simply lays out 5 phases. And the rationale behind the 5 phases was a couple of things. One was the physical break in these locations. The second is being able to show funding agencies that you've thought through an approach that could include partial or all the funding at once. It does not necessarily represent sequential construction. So although phase 2 right now is ready to be bid, when the phase 3 through 5 is done, they're done as one package, or could be broken up and you could bid those any different way you want to. It's just to give you the convenience to be able to move the project forward in a practical manner. With phase 3 through 5, though, there'll be a single vacuum pump station. So that will have to be constructed, and that is in phase 3, and then you kind of go from there. If you want to see other illustrations, figure 2 shows you the Mica West gravity collection system, which is already completely designed. This is just an illustration, not representing a design drawing. And then if you flip the page from there and you go to page 6, you'll see the vacuum collection system, where you see mostly along the east side of Lake Clark. There's a portion on the west side of Lake Clark, which is also picked up. And the portion that is not sewered on the west side is the Village of Palm Springs. And below that is your Mica West streets. So that was part of the rationale behind designing phase 2 as gravity, is because of its segregation from the rest of your system on the west side of the lake. And that was able to drive some cost out of the project. So that describes the physical aspects of the improvement project as currently in design and as proposed in the facilities plan, which is the topic of the resolution that's in front of you next. And what the resolution does is essentially say the town has reviewed the facilities plan, sees the facilities plan as a viable approach to solving the septic to sewer problem, and adopts a resolution to implement it. As Dan said at the beginning, this does not obligate the town to accept the money that could be offered to you, but it gives you the opportunity to do that. You can even turn it down if they select you and go, hey, we're going to give you money. You go, you know what? We're not ready, right? Or no, we're in. So this does not commit you to anything besides having the right documents in order to be able to qualify for Clean Water Act SRF funding. So the last part of it on page 7, just want to touch on real quickly. Back in 2021, the town had Raftellus Financial Consultants complete a utility revenue sufficiency study, right? Because sustainability is key to anything, right? When you have a business. So they did a revenue sufficiency study that identified certain things that the town would need to do to be able to create a revenue base that would be able to support your existing utilities and any of your future utilities. So, you know, as part of the facility plan, we represent to FDP that the town has done this, right? And that they'll be responsible in developing rates and charges that would be sufficient to sustain the system and pay back any loans that you may accept at that point in time. So that's a high level review of what was presented in the facilities plan that was required again by the state documents to be able to qualify. And if there's any questions that I can answer for you, I would be glad to do that.
All right, thank you very much, Bill. Any questions, Councilman Rodriguez?
No, I appreciate your presentation. I think it makes a lot of sense. Thank you for your work.
Councilman Gonzalez?
Thank you. What is bid ready versus shovel ready? Is that the same?
Same thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Well, yes, same thing.
Okay, thank you.
Although you can't go to the street with a shovel ready ad, right? You have to go bid ready. Right.
Okay, thank you.
President Pro Tem Freehold.
So is on figure 3
Yes,
versus figure 1,
yes.
is Mica West include the houses from Waterway South on Westlake? Or are they in that phase 3 through 5?
So go to figure 2, which is on page 5,
Right.
and you'll see what's included in the gravity system. And what the cutoff is, which is natural, is the waterway. From a vacuum system perspective, getting over the bridge and maintaining the vacuum to the vacuum pump station was impractical. Whereas Lake Worth Beach has a force main in Florida Mango that was more convenient to be able to connect this part of the system by gravity to the force main. And it's included within the road project that that Palm Beach County is going to do. So you don't have to look and go, why do we tear the road up again? It's already going to be included in the construction of the Florida Mango expansion back into your right of way.
I see that now, Bill. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Vice Mayor?
Short, sweet, and to the point.
My
Good,
pleasure.
Bill, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your constant work on this, Bill. Really appreciate you coming down here to do the presentation for us.
You're welcome. Have a
I
great night.
Questions for you. You too. All right. Going to open it up to audience comments before we approve. Well, wait, I guess we gotta do approval of resolution first, then we'll move on to audience comments. So up next, approval of resolution 2022-21, adopting the Clean Water State Revolving Fund Facilities Plan for the implementation of the Northern Utility Service Area Water Quality Improvement Septic Sewer Conversion Program.
So move.
Oh, wait, no. We're going to open up to audience comments.
Hope so.
All right. Any comments from the audience on this resolution? Yes, ma'am, come on up.
Hi, Jen, Jen Chanowski, 7130 Pine Tree Lane. I'm a little taken back by the agenda that we get on Friday that's posted on the Lake Clark Shores website. So it's like a quick, what you guys have up there, quick agenda of everything that's going to be set in the order. And then when we see this, ordinance, there's a little bit of, a headline on one ordinance, 2022-05, there's a little bit of information there on the air guns. But when you get to 2022-21, there's a title, nothing more. This to me seems like a very important resolution, and I don't know, I could be reading it wrong, but this right here on section 2 says the town formally approves and adopts the Northern Utility Service Area Water Quality Improvement Septic to Sewer Conversion Program Facilities Plan. So this seems like such a big important piece of resolution, law, whatever you guys are doing, and it seems like such a little notice to people. We all just received a shoreline. It had information on sewer, but it said nothing about this. I feel like there might be like a huge lack of, I don't know, information coming down. Or like there are many municipalities that show you the agenda and there are hyperlinks to these things and you can go and see them ahead of the meeting.
Did you have any questions as to what you heard during the presentation?
Well, no, not specifically. I'm speaking to you and asking you a few things and giving you information.
Okay.
Why are you asking me if I had questions specifically about his presentation? You guys are getting ready to vote on this resolution, are you not?
Yeah, well, his presentation was about.
I'm asking, talking to you about. Do I have to ask a question to him specifically?
What else do you have to say, Ms. Chanowski?
I asked you a question. Is this specifically for him? Did I miss something?
I didn't hear a question.
So I can only ask questions up here.
You said you asked me a question. I advised I didn't hear one.
Oh, am I supposed to only ask questions to Mr. Lynch? Or can I, it said audience comments, I thought.
It is audience comments.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm making the comments.
Okay.
Okay. Or should I put them in the form of a question? I don't understand. This isn't my forte. So you tell me what you need and I'll do it.
You provide us with your comments.
Okay. Okay. So the resolution, I feel like it's important, but if people who are like going online and printing out the agenda ahead of time could actually print out what you guys are discussing, we could have like some time to read it, maybe digest it. Seems like that might not be at all interesting to any of you guys to have us like know these things ahead of time and read them too. No? Nothing.
Have you asked a question yet?
Are you interested in having residents read resolutions ahead of an agenda and resolutions being read within an agenda?
Sure.
Sure. So that's yes. You are? So could you possibly restructure how you're putting the agendas online and including resolutions maybe with hyperlinks That's something you'd be interested in doing?
You can talk to the town staff who prepares the agenda.
So it's not a yes or no?
I don't prepare the agenda. No one on this council does, ma'am.
Okay, so,
Any comments on this resolution is what is what we're talking about.
okay. Okay, I just had comments and you asked me for questions. These are my comments.
I'm not asking you for questions. You told me you had a question. You asked a question and I advised what was the question. I didn't hear it. And then we did this like circle.
Okay, so basically my concern is that we're not getting the resolutions with the agendas because some people that are interested print them out, but they're no.
Feel free to contact the town before you come to the meeting and get whatever information you need.
Okay, well, not everyone's gonna know to do that. It's the age of information. You put the agenda online, can't there just be like some hyperlinks and everything?
Again, you can speak with town staff on how they prepare the agenda.
Okay, and the other thing, I had a question on the revised combined engineer's opinion of costs for phase 2 through 5 at 16.6 million. Do you remember what that figure was before it was revised?
No.
Is that a no? Oh, no. Okay, and then do you have an idea of how long the project will take?
This is not on the resolution, ma'am. If you want to discuss the resolution, this is the time. Anything outside of the resolution, you can address during audience comments.
Okay, I'm literally reading off these pieces of paper and just had a question about the length of time. Do you not know the length of time that it would take or an idea? I'm just curious.
I don't even know. What'd you ask me? Length of time to do what?
Do you have any idea how long the phases of this project?
No, ma'am.
Work right here, proposing septic to sewer,
The proposal
The northern
overall is
utility-
7 years,
7 years. Oh, okay, so you do know, 7 years.
but you've been advised of many times.
Okay. All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other audience comments on this resolution? It will be time for other audience comments on anything you all want to talk about in about a few minutes. All right, anything online, Dan?
No, sir.
All right. Council action, take a motion.
So moved.
Motion approved is made, it's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right. We're moving on now to audience comments. Ms. Janowski, would you like to start off? No? All right. Any other audience comments?
Tony Sacco, 7305 Pine Tree Lane. This kind of follows up with Jen about the town giving out information, putting out correct information. I'm sure you all are familiar with the shorelines. Everybody's familiar with this? I don't know if anybody in here has gotten it.
It's a good thing he's there.
Okay.
Yeah?
Thank you, sir.
You gave me two, Tom.
But anyway, this on page 4 shows a picture here. I guess it's supposed to depict the lake. For people in the audience, this green colored water with someone appears to be in a hazmat suit, some kind of foamy pollution. Do you think this accurately depicts the condition of the lake? The reason I bring it up is last meeting, November 10th, Vice Mayor Shalhoub was talking about the accuracy of information. And he said, we can only make, this is a quote, when you were asked about, you were talking about the trailers, 172 trailers, violations by Mike, I think it's Fred Weg or something like that. So your quote was, we can only make an informed decision if we have the right information. And once that information starts getting twisted, blurred, we're not going to make good decisions. and people are going to get upset about the fact that our decisions are wrong. So I want to make a decision based on accurate information, and I want to make any decision based upon the people we up here, which is you all folks, promise to represent. To me, this is not accurate information. I mean, this is, I don't know exactly how you'd call it, but it's, I mean, I'd like to know where this picture was taken
Got no idea.
and who approved it and who put this together. I mean, because this is obviously not our lake.
Mr. Sacco, this has been behind my house. This picture is not from behind my house, but this has been behind my house, and a couple of residents from our street, before you started attending meetings, came here to complain about this very thing. So the green algae has been in there. It has been.
And
And
with
it's been
people,
noted by the health department for the county,
and people in hazmat suits have come in and taken water samples from back there,
not from behind my house to my knowledge.
right? Well, it
But the
appears,
green algae has been there. And when you
Like
do,
this?
when you do sampling, not to that extent, but it's been pretty intense at times in the hot summer months, and there's not a lot of flow, especially if they don't move water. This summer, they were not moving a lot of
the
water,
water that comes from Lake Okeechobee into our lake.
or just discharging our water into the C51 spillway
Right.
and bring it back there. 2 residents actually came, it's on the record, you can have access to the public record. They came here complaining about the stench and the green algae on the waterway. That's. a
Yet you
fact.
promote fish camps for kids.
Well, it's because the water moves and it flows and it subsides. That's how algae works. It's
Which-
not a year-round thing.
Right, so the water flow is bringing in pollution, no matter where, if you change the septic tanks out or not, you're still going to have pollution coming in from Lake Okeechobee.
Well, that's very possible, yes. I wouldn't argue that, but that's very possible.
If you have any questions about the shorelines, you can talk to town staff. They prepared it, or someone in town staff did. Council does not approve the shorelines. We don't write in the shorelines. We don't edit it.
Right, but I was just, as the Vice Mayor had mentioned, you know, the residents need accurate information. You need accurate information to make accurate decisions.
Mr. Sacco, your 3 minutes is up.
Thank you, sir. Any additional audience comments? Mr. Kulkarni?
Good evening. My name is Ashok Kulkarni, 8131 Westlake Drive. For everybody's convenience, I already submitted my write-up, and I hope you got a chance to.
I think you have a lot of very good ideas.
And let me tell you, I've been attending meetings here almost more than 25 years when this councilor used to be in the police department one time. Then they came here. What I'm watching here is the changes during COVID. You kept the separation on your podium, okay? We used to sit apart that time. Now COVID is not a serious problem. We are sitting all close, and therefore I'm suggesting try to bring sitting arrangement it used to be before. Like administrator used to sit there, attorney used to be there, police chief used to sit down there. So what happened? That's very convenient to communicate. Very, okay, number 1. 2, this location, and again, sitting arrangement, there is not too much room. Also, I noticed they should have made it bigger hall in the first place. And this stage should have been a little lower by 1 step, but that beside the point. But this stand and the speaker used to be there, which was very convenient because I heard from many people from the audience having a back and speaking, although there is a speaker, nothing is more better than person who is speaking can look at you as well as to the audience. So it will create a more room, you move it there. So all I'm suggesting, nothing new. I'm just requesting you take it back to normal situation that it used to be before. That is all I'm suggesting. Then I also mentioned that audience comments, you have mentioned that you listen, and if people have any question, you want to answer at the end of it. In my opinion, any communication, any question, answer should happen at the same time because everybody listen to everything. If I have any question, I to listen to from you at the same time. And this 3 minutes rule, it's creating a problem because this rule has been there for last several years, but nobody has really done themselves like, hey, 3 minutes are up, almost like shut up. That should not be the case. During workshop, people were speaking 25 minutes and half an hour. That's a different story. I'm not proposing, but if somebody goes to 5 minutes plus minus, one should not put break on that thing. They should allow to speak because this is the really communication to help the community. You are elected. So you should see, this is a classic example. Here it is telling me I should go back. If I get couple of minutes and I like to hear from you, whether would you like to do it or not at the end of the meeting, because if people finish the conversation for their issue, they can go home. They don't have to sit down at the end, and many times those questions are not answered. And I attended Palm Springs.
Mr. Kulkarni, please.
Here it is a classic example. Go back. I'm discussing important issue for your consideration. Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Any additional audience comments?
Louise Brandenburg, 1890 Carissa Road. I want to be accurate. On the home-based business law, I guess what I'd really like to know 11 months later is the law going to be enforced? And as far as accuracy, I understand from a recent police report that 1900 Carissa Road is in full compliance. Mr. Scheck, maybe you can straighten this out. If you're violated for the trailer code 4A, rather than the trailer code, but the 125-767 4A, having multiple trailers, you still are in violation. It's just not being enforced under the moratorium, correct?
I don't make the decision as to whether there's a violation. The code enforcement board does that. But because the ordinance that you're speaking to is subject of a moratorium, you are correct. It is not now being enforced during the moratorium period.
But if you've gotten a violation, you still are in violation until this whole mess is straightened out. It's just not enforced.
Somebody can come into compliance. I have no knowledge as to whether it's in violation or not at this time.
Okay.
But as I stated, the issue of more than one trailer and the other issues in the subject ordinance are currently part of the moratorium and are not being enforced.
Okay. But what I'd like to know from the council and the police department is, are we going to enforce the home-based business? It's been 11 months now. I've lost my patience, obviously, last week. I would just like to know, are we just, because I know there's codes that are enforced, codes that haven't been enforced for 10, 15 years. As a resident, I read the codes. But if there's a separate rule book, I'd like to know where I find that rule book, on what laws are enforced, what codes aren't enforced, because we're not getting accurate information here. I knew nothing about that home-based law, didn't care to know. I retired this year and my goal is to foster kittens. Okay, that's what I do, foster newborn kittens. I had no desire to be an advocate, no desire to knock on doors. I just want to live quietly in my home, not being woke up in the morning, not seeing trailers come and go. So I know you're not in the habit of answering. Maybe the police is. Can I get an answer, either emailed publicly? Will this town be enforcing the home-based business law? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor and Councilman. My name is Brandon Smith. I represent Miss Yoselin Mendez, and let me introduce you to Miss Yoselin Mendez. She is a pregnant mother of 3, and she runs a bounce house business out of her home, right? This is beautiful capitalism at work, and she's a shining beacon of capitalism, okay? There is a darker picture to this, and I just want to give you an update of what's been going on. She asked me to come and speak, and I feel obliged to. And you heard from Ms. Brandenburg, her perspective. However, the truth of the matter is there is a moratorium, okay? There is a moratorium, and I ask that the moratorium be permanent and implemented permanently. We have a lawsuit filed against the Brandenburgs for slander and tortious interference with a business. What they also left out is I recently received a probable cause affidavit for their arrest for cyber stalking children under 16 and harassment as well. And we will be filing a separate action for restraining order and injunction. And to close, and I told you I wouldn't take up much of your time. To close, I take inspiration from the prayer this morning. Love thy neighbor, okay? I'm here to deliver a message, and that's just to love thy neighbor, let people live in peace. You know, and I know you said your patience is running thin, but the code of ordinances does not operate on your patience. You know, so I ask that the moratorium be permanently implemented and that the residents here just respect one another and just let each other live peacefully. Thank you.
Thank
Am I getting arrested tonight? I have no lawsuit against me. Am I being arrested tonight?
you. So we're going to go back now to just audience comments, please. Yes, Mr. Rossi.
Are we allowed to talk about it? Is it only about the agenda tonight, or am I allowed to make comments?
Whatever you want to talk about.
My wife put in for a speed bump maybe 5, 6 months ago, or 8 months ago or something. I just haven't heard back from it yet. I know there's a process they're supposed to go about getting it done, and I think everybody kind of agreed on my street, and I just kind of want to know what happened to that whole thing. I know I wasn't here, I guess, when maybe you guys talked about it, but I just wanted to hear back maybe.
Sure, we'll get you an update here in a second. Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other audience comments?
Can I ask a question?
You can come on up.
Say my name.
Yes, ma'am.
Jen Chanelski, 7130 Pine Tree Lane. Does this mean you guys approving the resolution 2022-21? Does that mean that you're approving septic to sewer?
No,
Doesn't,
correct.
even though it says,
I answered your question.
can I just read you what it says?
I'm not going to go back and forth with you. You can say, even though it says that, even though it says that, the answer is the same. Even though it says everything in writing, the answer is the same.
What is it approving exactly? Could you tell me? Just the funding?
It allows us the ability to get the funding if we want it.
Okay, where it says the town formally approves and adopts, that line that I read you, that doesn't mean that you're approving the septic to sewer plan. It just reads that way, and I'm not a lawyer, so it's not like I know. But you know, so you're saying no.
How many, you want me to answer the question multiple times, ma'am?
No.
Okay,
Okay. All right, thanks.
you're welcome. Any additional audience comments? Yes, sir.
So Kulkarni, 8131 Westlake Drive. I have got a simple question. Am I going to get a response to my write-up?
Yes. Any additional audience comments?
Mr. Mayor, we have a mail-in comment whenever you're ready.
Sure, thank you.
My name's Roger Hoofnagel, 7536 Edgewater Circle. I was curious, we seem to have a single focus on the septic to sewer And I was wondering, are there any other studies out there, evaluative studies for the other options to clarify the lake? Why have we focused on just one when there are multiple things? I haven't seen any evaluations on that. Are there any? Cost evaluations, focuses, contractors, consultants, studies, anything?
We can address that question during council comments. But if you could be a little bit more specific so we can better understand what you're referring to.
I see how difficult to be more specific. I want to know if there's any other studies out there for any other options for clarifying the lake.
Our particular lake?
Other than the septic tank conversion.
Okay.
Are there?
We'll answer that question during council comments. Thank you, sir. Any additional audience comments? All right. Mr. Clark, what's the mail-in?
Miss Victoria Prinzi asks if she would like to be able to have a couple of chickens in a coop for eggs, no rooster. Can we get a code in place to allow chickens for food production? Miss Prinzi is from 1411 Coranda Circle.
Thank you for writing that in. I actually spoke with Ms. Prenzi earlier today, and I assured her if she didn't write it in, I would discuss it during council comments. Anyone from the audience have any thoughts on this particular audience comment about chickens? All right, any additional audience comments? Anything else written in, Dan?
No, sir.
All right. We're going to move on to status reports. We'll start with the chief.
All right, good evening. Last month, the police department responded to 354 calls for service. We assisted Palm Springs on 2 other calls. We had 5 arrests, a narcotics arrest. We had 1 police officer aggravated assaulted and battered. That individual was arrested and booked in the county jail. We made an arrest on a failure to a warrant. We had another battery assault arrest, and we had a DUI. I believe that was an accident. We also filed for 4 warrant requests, and we had a sexual battery involving a juvenile. We referred it to the state attorney, and we had another one on a stolen vehicle that we filed on. We had 212 traffic stops. We issued 192 citations, concentrating on Forest Hill, Pine Tree, and Westlake. We had a total of 13 vehicle crashes, 1 hit and run. Our LPR camera system ran 160,000 tags. We had 1 stolen vehicle and some miscellaneous suspensions and so forth. And let's see, we added a new camera on Barbados Road that has a lot to do with security on Barbados with the police department and town hall, and another one on Gregory Road, which will be very useful once Florida Mango is opened up. Thursday, along with the other police chiefs, we have a confidential private meeting with the United States Attorney in the Southern District. So I'll be attending that all morning. And that's my report. The rest of it, yeah.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the chief on his report?
Have you noticed that the detour has increased activity and your responsibilities?
No, we really, now we had a little bit of an influx. Some people are figuring out coming in on Arabian Road, but really I haven't had, I did have 1 complaint, but overall most of the traffic is on Congress. If you go in the morning, it's backed up from Forest Hill almost to 10th Avenue. So a lot of that traffic is going on Congress. We do have a few that slip through, but actually on a lot of the side streets, there's no traffic at all because you can't cut through because the roads are closed.
Well, I'm also impressed on the amount of citations that you've issued for public safety minded.
Yeah, we had complaints. I got another complaint today. People running stop signs and going over the speed limit. We did issue a lot of citations. I haven't had any complaints lately. I do get complaints from people that get citations, but just to let you know, we've been enforcing that. If anybody has any concerns, it's triple the amount of traffic enforcement in those areas.
I think it's great. Thank you, Chief.
Any questions for the chief?
Yeah, I'm impressed with the report. I like it. I'm wondering who wrote it. But also, who's Susanna Smith? But more seriously, I do appreciate the officers being out there now. There is a little more, I'm in the town every morning driving through, and I do see more traffic coming through more than normal. But I'm glad I see a lot of the police officers in their vehicles patrolling, because I think it slows down traffic, and I think people start to realize you can't just speed through our town. So I appreciate that. I appreciate the fact that we now have new LPR cameras.
License plate reader.
And they were on Barbados and Gregory.
Yeah, matter of fact, we just got those installed, and the day of the election, I had a stolen BMW come down our street.
Wow.
But one of the reasons when I talked with Dan in reference to that, we had 2 murder suspects from the county that their access was right by our police department. And we used our camera systems that we have here. But if I would have had an LPR, I would have had a perfect picture of the vehicle and the tag. Those subjects had been arrested, and that occurred in the county. So a lot of times, every day we average about 60,000 vehicles coming through the city. So out of that, you're going to have people that are wanted. I mean, any one time you could have over 10,000 people that are wanted on warrants throughout Palm Beach County for all kinds of civil process and also for failure to appear in court. So
I want to follow through that as well. So if you get an LPR camera hit on a stolen vehicle, does the officer get notice of that pretty quickly?
Right, it's supposed to be about a 3-second delay.
Okay.
And if the officer's in the immediate area, our city is small, but we can take action. Now, Palm Springs was looking at an LPR system, and they had a drive-by shooting, and they were looking at putting in a system. If they would have had the LPR system, they would have had the vehicle, the date, the time, and the tag, and the suspects in the vehicle. So the idea of the LPR system, God forbid if we have something serious or major, it gives us other tools in our box to go back and look.
The last question, the last comment I want to make is, can you remind us, the citizens that are here today, that we do have this program for vacations? Do the police department still come to houses?
Right, you can register your house, talking about the house watch?
Yeah, house watch.
You can register online, you can come by the police station, and the homes are checked. As long as we're not busy, we try to check them on a couple of shifts during the day. And they're logged in, so when you come back, a lot of people have camera systems, so they can see when the officers go and check the residents. That's one of the things that we've done for many years that a lot of the other departments don't do anymore.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Thank you. President Pro Tem Freeble.
Nothing at this time. Good work, Chief. Keep watching them.
Thank you very much, Chief, and to your staff. The report was pretty thorough. Thank you very much. Chief Adams, welcome.
Hi, good evening. Thank you very much for having me tonight. My name is Tracy Adams, Palm Beach County Fire Rescue District Chief. Last 30 days, including the end of October and November, has been very busy out in fire rescue world. We had an immense amount of community events during the month of October, including all types of trunk or treat, first responder appreciation, community service fairs, and read for the record. So we were out heavily in the month of October, including that is our fire prevention month as well. Then we started off November with elections. The other individuals in my rank as district chief, we work at the collection sites after the polling is over as supervisors, and we count, make sure all that we're receiving is accurate in conjunction with PBSO, and then that information is taken to the site in Blue Heron at the supervisor of elections. So we work late on that election night, and then the next morning we reported for preparation for the hurricane that we just had. So luckily, very fortunately, I should state, that we weathered, all of us seemed to weather well through that storm. I was in contact with police chief, assistant chief, Mr. Clark, both before the storm and after. I did stay over at the fire station and was prepared in the middle of the night to make some decisions based upon how it panned out as far as the winds, rain, and flooding. And I was happy to see when I woke up in the morning, it looked like we all did pretty well. From my office window, it didn't look like we had really much of a storm. So I was very thankful for that. But rest assured, we were prepared and ready to go. We had high water vehicles in place. We had upstaffed on some of our brush trucks, and some of our staffing. So we were ready to roll as needed. That's all I have. Thanks again. Be safe and healthy.
Thank you very much, Chief. Truly appreciate all that you and your team do. Mr. Scheck.
My report is brief. It's included in your agenda packet. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Scheck?
Mr. Scheck, I just had one question, and I overheard. I just want to make sure that I'm clear. It's to Ms. Brandenburg's point. The home-based businesses, is that who's responsible for enforcing that piece of law? Does that fall to the local municipality? Is it?
Yes, it falls to the local municipality under the municipality's code enforcement.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
As distinguished from the Florida statute.
Yes.
Any questions for Mr. Scheck?
I have a quick one. Charlie, you were here at the workshop Thursday night. Obviously, you had a lot of questions asked and stuff. Are you going to be our point person at some point down the road to draft an ordinance that's readable, understandable, logical, simple?
I would be happy to do that. I will tell you my recommendation, you should have gotten a copy of before the meeting. I understand that there are a couple of issues still unresolved, but I'll be happy to address those couple of issues and resubmit that proposal to you for your review and consideration.
Thanks.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
No, I just wanted a clarification. We don't enforce Florida statutes.
No, but you enforce
the code,
your municipal code, which has to be in compliance with the statute. But you're correct. We do not enforce the statute.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Clark.
A couple of items just to highlight in my report. I projected the calendar of upcoming council meetings and CRA meetings into February, just to make sure that everybody sees that we're going to be in a different schedule. There's a lot going on in February and a lot going on in March. And it's probable that we will have two meetings in February, the 7th and the 28th, and no meeting in March because of a lot of conflicts going on in March. I also wanted to highlight that we have a lot of upcoming events. So please mark your calendars. We've got, we're doing the parade. Chief, if you want to have somebody here for the parade, it's the 3rd of December at 11 a.m.
Thank you. We'd love to.
We have the tree lighting. We have the menorah lighting. We're going to do the next food truck on February 11th, and we're going to tie it to Valentine's Day. So we will have some type of Valentine's Day food truck event. Then we have on the 24th, the barbecue movie night. And then on the 26th, we have the town barbecue. So please make sure all of those are in your calendars. Should be a good time this spring.
Thank you, Dan. So that's December 3rd for the Holiday in Paradise Parade at 11 a.m. December 3rd, 6 p.m. The tree lighting, the Jim and Judy Tackett tree lighting event. December 18th is going to be the Hanukkah menorah lighting event. And February 11th will be the food truck. Any questions for Mr. Clark? Starting with Councilman Rodriguez.
No, excuse me, you said March 26th is our
First.
Yes.
Tree lighting's the same night as.
and that doesn't conflict with any holiday.
No, sir, it doesn't. Nor any prescribed school vacation schedule.
And will Bob, will you be organizing these meetings, barbecue and stuff?
Yes.
Okay,
You want to be involved?
of course.
We can use all the help we can get.
Will be. Thank you, Dan.
Councilman Rodriguez, Gonzalez,
No comment. No questions. Thank you.
President Pro Tem Freebold,
Nope, everything is good. Got it marked in the book.
Vice Mayor.
We're doing good. Thank you, Dan.
All right,
14th is the food trucks.
we're gonna move on to council comments. We'll start with Councilman Rodriguez.
I'll be brief. I was here Thursday night. I came in late, but I decided to sit in the audience, kind of get a perspective from down there, looking up at here. Well, one of the things that I recognize, council members, is I really appreciate your dedication. It was a Thursday night, and you all took a lot of criticism and complaints initially in the meeting, which I missed, but I heard a lot about. And then I came in, and so I sat there and then watched. I really liked the fact that you all were so attentive to what the people had to say. But it was also nice to sit down there because I can kind of see how persons have questions and concerns. And sometimes it's just a matter of education, understanding what things are about. I don't think this trailer issue is really simple. I think it's going to take a while before we can really get to it, but I don't know what the rush is. We've got other things that are on our agenda, and I don't think we need to rush into it. And I would maybe at some point maybe want to extend our moratorium, which I don't know when it ends because I can't remember when it started, but we're probably pretty close to the end of the 6 months. So an idea maybe at the next meeting to think about that moratorium extension if we need to do it, just because I want to get this right, and this affects so many people. But it also brings out a lot of issues about who we are as a town, whether we respect each other as neighbors, whether we want to live in harmony. A little bit about the character of our town has really been brought out in that workshop. It's kind of interesting. That being said, I appreciate all the hard work you did with the children, Greg. It was really nice that you recognized those little kids down there. I remember when they were born. It's so nice. And so does Bob, and so does Paul. And, you know, they've grown so much, and it's so good to bring kids up in a culture like our town where they participate in events. I remember when I first got on council, my youngest was just born, I think. Yeah, just born. And so I had all these young kids that I had to raise in this town, and I loved doing it. I loved all the events, but there was no better place to raise your kids, little kids, because, you know, everybody is so friendly and nice and just accommodating. And I'll tell you, so I think about the last 16 years, and then I look down at you all down there, and I'm like, wow, this is so nice to see it happening again. And all the other kids that were here as well. And then Greg, all your grandchildren. It makes me proud to be up here on this council, to preserve a heritage for our children. And I want to keep doing that. Thank you. And obviously, Paul, your kids too.
Yeah, thank you.
Paul and Bobby, I went over to Bobby's house the other night, and he was cooking in the kitchen with his baby on the floor. And I'm thinking, that's such a nice thing. I remember those days, and I don't know if I miss them or not, but we've got a lot of young kids in this town now, and amongst the council members, grandkids. And can we keep thinking about them as we make these decisions?
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Councilman Gonzalez.
I've been freezing up here all night long. And I'm kind of frustrated. I'm a little disappointed. I wanted to read the definition of community. Community is a group of people living in the same place or having a particular characteristic in common. Dovetailing off of a little bit of what Mr. Rodriguez was talking about, the second definition here is a feeling of fellowship with others as a result of sharing common attitudes, interests, and goals. And, you know, it's for, use a 25-cent word here, fortuitous that the pastor talked about loving thy neighbor. And, you know, as a community, I think that we all have a lot of really great ideas. Jen, it's a nice idea to actually include a link. That's a good piece of information. Mr. Sacco, you know, you brought up an important point of, you know, this might just be something off of Google Images or, you know, that was included in there because I don't know if anybody has a whole lot of extra time to go and snap a photo and put it in. It was probably just easier to do that. But a lot of times it's the way we go about things. It's the way that we address things. And I just wanted to ask everybody, you know, let's please give at least me, us, the benefit of the doubt, staff the benefit of the doubt. You know, the shoreline isn't, we don't get to review it, or we're not part of that editing process. And it's a nice thing that the staff does to keep us all kind of up to date. You know, this NUSA for short, Northern Utility Service Area, it's a plan. And I've got the definition for plan, but I'll spare you. It doesn't lock us into anything. This is a step. And if later on, when we're at the appropriate time, if something in here does not work for us, this is kind of a draft. It is a plan. It is our intentions to seek out and to get the funds to see if it's possible. You know, I'm also frustrated because we had a resident here that was asking about some other detailed information. You know, this is our opportunity to be able to communicate with each other because we can't do it outside of this forum. And this gentleman left. You know, here's our opportunity to respond, and this gentleman left. And you know, I know a lot of folks here in person, some online. You guys are extremely dedicated residents that care about this community deeply. So I'm just asking that we come together and that we do things in a positive light. I know that there's certain issues that really are frustrating, and I hear you and I get it. I wanted to address, you know, the speed bump. I heard a couple of people on Venetian. I was there in person, and it came up in conversation without talking about speed bumps with a couple other folks. Actually, I was in line waiting to vote, and it came up. And so I've been talking to Dan, and I want to let you know, Mr. Rossi, that I'm need to go over there, and apparently there's like some technical issues that I wanted to look and see firsthand what the issue was. So those are my comments. So thank you all for being here, and please give us a benefit of the doubt. I try like hell. I put in my time, you know, and I read as much as I possibly can to make sure that I come here with an educated and informed idea and perspective of what is in front of us. And just want to let you all know. Thanks.
Thank you. President Pro Tem Prebo.
Thank you. Congratulations again, Elizabeth, especially. Now you see how government works, and the best government is the government closest to the people. So you take it in. You're a fantastic young lady. Jacob, you're a very good young man. I'm very impressed. That's probably a product of your household. I can see that. So thank you again. And I want to thank Freddie Rhodes. He has been reappointed to the Infrastructure Surtax Citizen Oversight Committee. And I'm going to leave some of the notes that I took from the speakers for the mayor. But I think that some of the reason that we have been taking in all of everybody's suggestions is to ask people to stay so that you can hear the whole meeting. When we address them and they leave, there's other certain critical factors that maybe they don't hear. Not everybody's watching online. So that's possibly one of the reasons. The conversion, I think Mr. Hoofnagel already left already. So I've been talking to a lot of environmental engineers, and this isn't just something that's just come up out of the blue. This is something that's been being discussed for 15 or 20 years. The blue algae is a real thing. This may not be the real picture from the lake. There was green algae in the main lake, on the C-51 canal, and in the canals behind people's homes. So it is a real issue. The feeling is that the first step is a conversion. Then we'll have more leverage to address the other issues and possibly get funding. The lake does need to be dredged. It needs to be cleaned somehow. We won't reduce the herbicides in the lake without first addressing the bottom of the lake. It's just so shallow in so many areas. And I've done readings all over the lake to see what the depth of the lake is, to figure out why the weeds are so successful and resistant to the spraying and the herbicides that they apply. So then we'll also have more leverage to really put pressure on the state from the movement of the water to the runoff from I-95 and Southern Boulevard and things of that nature. And the water flows, and there's other impaired bodies of water that are worse than we are, for sure. In other good news, I saw today that the governor is going to call a special session, and it's to address the rising cost of homeowners insurance. I don't know about you folks, but our homeowners insurance is through the roof. Unbelievable. And it just, they drop you, they pick you up, they drop you, they pick you up, and this is without any claims. That needs to get addressed, so I'm glad that he's calling a special session to really address this. The demographics here in Lake Clark Shores are definitely changing. We see it with these young folks that are really interested in keeping their treasure. My opinion is the lake does no good for us as our focal point if we can't use it. And if we don't stay in front of it, it's going to overrun us, just in my opinion. And there's other places with much larger problems. There's a gentleman, Mick, I can't remember his last name, but he's the mayor, or was formerly the mayor in Sanibel, that would attend these League of City meetings. And the fish kill from the green algae, even in the ocean, was unbelievable. And the water pressure, and I've been saying this up here for a long time because that's my committee, it's water quality, water quantity. Where are we going to go? The 8 billionth person was born in the world. I believe that was today, possibly today somewhere. 8 billion. Yeah, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of pressure on water sources and things of that nature. So we will continue to work. We'll continue to stay ahead of it, dedicate ourselves to trying to do the right thing for the coming children, parents, grandparents, everybody. And in closing, be thankful. Let's all be thankful. We have a war going on in our country. There's no war in this country right now. So be very thankful at this time of Thanksgiving and count all of your blessings. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Councilmember Freepold?
Yes, sir.
I don't want to say anything. I'll say it now. About 12 years ago, we had an algae bloom on the north side of the lake in that Finger Canal.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so bad you couldn't breathe. And I think it was Danny's septic tank. We ended up with a couple of trucks. They had to put hazmat type suits on and pump the top of it off. I remember that.
I do.
I haven't looked at the pictures, seen it, but I'm saying we did have hazmats, and it was the residents were having trouble breathing.
I think that's possibly a dramatic effect to help people understand it's a real issue. It's out there. It's just not our community. It's a lot of waterfront communities. And there are other communities that are in larger problems that are on septic tanks. And, you know, the folks are resisting. And I understand it. I mean, we have to pay that too. But you just can't keep kicking this thing down the road. We have to figure out a comprehensive plan and then try to stick to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Vice Mayor.
I'm going to say something about this. That I don't think in the shoreline they identified this as Lake Clark, did they? with that in mind,
They wanted you to think that it was.
I don't know what they wanted us to think. All I know is that they didn't identify it as as a part of the lake.
Well, it's
The,
with the article, right below the article. I mean, common sense will tell you that that's what they want you to think.
I don't know, many of you remember a gentleman by the name of Chris Schmidt.
Oh, yeah.
CJ. Chris Schmidt was a police officer in Georgia for many years. And he is in Ohio right now. And I just want to read something to you. He basically says, I hope that LCSPD is still running smooth under your leadership. That's correct, Chief Smith. It's been a while since I retired down here and moved back to Ohio. Just wanted to drop you a line to thank you for all your help in mentoring while I worked for you. After getting back home, I was offered a job at a college police department as a lieutenant. And by the way, that college, you might have heard about it. It's called Notre Dame. After getting back home, was offered a job as a lieutenant. Today, I was offered the job of police chief. I get sworn in on November the 4th. This summer, I took a 3-month leadership course. One of the on-the-spot speeches I had to give was on someone who was an influence on your career. I spent my 5 minutes talking about you. So there's 33 police bosses up here in Ohio who have never met you, Chief, but they all know who you are. Thanks for all your help and patience while I worked for you, and I truly appreciate all you did for me. We had a police chief here by the name of Mike Bruchel, and his tenure here was short-lived, regrettably. And I said to everybody, I think one of the biggest, best decisions that Chief Bruchel made was hiring Wes Smith as our police chief. And how many years ago was that, Chief?
I've been 20. I'm the longest serving police chief in Palm Beach County.
20 years?
20 years here, total of almost 50.
Wow. I just want everybody to know that. Just give a shout out to the chief. And Chief, I'm really impressed with the police report. Traffic safety. And I sent you a text. I was on Forest Boulevard going to I-95, and the police officer was in the right-hand lane, turned on his lights, jumped the curb, went around all of the cars that were backed up, and caught somebody that ran a red light. I don't know whether he gave him a citation, but by golly, I tell you what, you need to start doing that a little bit more. We just need to keep traffic safety and enforcing what's on the books. So I said, I don't know who it was, but hopefully you gave him a pat on the back. And then I just wanted to say thank you to, Dan and starting the audit. And I really appreciate the staff doing, stepping up to the plate. These little people down here, they might be Elizabeth Seal and Jacob Seal, but they are they're the children of our Bernadette and our daughter Christina Seal. She lives on Venetian, and I'm so proud of them. They're just fantastic. Y'all doing a good job. Y'all doing a good job. So, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to leave the rest to you. Got a lot of audience comments to talk about. And don't forget the mayor's ball. We're going to go, gentlemen?
Yeah, what's the date?
April 1st.
April 1st. Do we need to take some type of action, Mr. Clark?
Would be nice, sir.
You want me to do it like so moved?
Please.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you. We'll work on reservations.
Pardon me?
We'll work on the reservations.
Thank you very much, sir.
On that note, is there anything for League of Cities in January that we need to be looking at making reservations and stuff for?
Excuse me. No, I think the next league action will be late in March with legislative days.
Okay. Can we go ahead and schedule whatever we need to schedule ahead of time for that?
Generally not, because you have to register first for legislative days. I'll check. Maybe Rodney he's gone. I'll check with the league and find out if they're allowing registration.
Two things, the league and then Palm Beach County Day, two different things.
Correct.
Just make sure we're registered as soon as you can, please.
In December, Mr. Pinsky will be here to help us work on our legislative agenda.
Thank you very much.
Perfect.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Dan, what is the status of speed bumps or chief with regard to putting up those additional speed signs?
The two additional speed signs were put up on Westlake, and on my next report, we'll have the statistics.
Okay.
The percentages and stuff you can look at. Venetian, it's not a through street, but you do have people that go down it not knowing it's not a through street and turning around. I don't get them involved in that part, but it'd probably be more proficient if you did a speed bump on a through street than on a street that it's not a through street. But whatever y'all desire to do, the residents and work, you can go down there and look at it, Bob, and see.
Are we going to get any additional speed signs? Those ones that we recently had?
Two are on order right now.
Okay. Do we know where we're going to place them yet?
No. And we've had a request for a flashing stop sign on Corandis and Lake Clark. We're looking into that.
Okay. I'm aware of that request. Yeah, we're past that. I know you want that. I'm trying to see what's. No problem. We're getting there. So currently there's a moratorium on the old, we'll call it procedure to get a speed bump sign, or sorry, speed table, because they're not speed bumps anymore. If we were to do a new speed table, for example, on Venetian, would it be the same type that's currently there, or would it be like the one that's near Forest Hill on Westlake?
It would be the one similar to Forest Hill and Westlake.
If it pleases the council, I would like to see if we could get, to address Mr. Rossi and his wife's concern, a new proposed method on how these things come about. Because I think the issue and why there's a moratorium on it was because essentially 15 people or households could get a speed bump, and then next thing you know, we could literally have them all over the place, like driving on South Olive Avenue.
Paul, I think, if I may, I think your idea is really good. And I think we should also review the current speed bumps we have and find out if we can convert them to tables as opposed to keeping them at these real high speed bumps, and whether we actually need all of the ones we have, because some of them, like, for example, over on Pine Tree, are really close to each other. So I like, as a part of that idea, maybe one of those being taken out and then convert the other to a table, and maybe put tables in some other places just to make sense. Because it's kind of weird right now how we have a table and then we have real big speed bumps. And I understand the history about how they happened years and years ago, but I know Fire Rescue, you're still here. I know you've said in the past how much you love speed bumps coming into our town. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I feel bad on that side. If you're like ambulance trying to get to you, they have to go over two major speed bumps to get to your house. So I would ask, maybe we can consider all of those options.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
I think that the moratorium had its right intentions to kind of stop the current procedure or process away, but I understand that the residents on Venetian had already applied for it, and that was the reason why, I guess, we're focusing in and zeroing in on the Venetian speed table specifically, as opposed to now continuing to allow the procedure to continue to exist.
I think we got to figure out another method.
Can I comment? I recently went to town of Haverhill, and they had a workshop on traffic softening where a gentleman had come and they talked about 4 or 5 different methods of softening the traffic, being the tables, being like landscape roundabouts, or putting up signs with your speeds. They had a lot of different avenues. And I went to another municipality, Glen Ridge, similar situation. And I, as a resident, as a citizen, wish that I had speed bumps in my development, because I constantly telling people to slow down. So I definitely am for it as well. But there's other avenues to look into, and you might be able to reach out to the village manager, the town manager at Haverhill, and see if get sent the presentation they had on the different avenues that you could explore as well.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Can we do that, Dan?
So I guess what I'm hearing is authorization to hire a traffic consultant or some other type individual that can come in, look at our current situation, make recommendations for changes, and include in that policies and procedures for improving speed tables.
Well, I don't know what the cost of someone to do that would be.
We
I would
don't
like
have,
to know, I would like a recommendation from town staff on a new proposal or proposed changes to how do we go about getting speed tables if residents want them.
so
So
that
that we're not
policy,
dealing with where 15 homes essentially get it. You know, I think one of the situations before is the husband didn't want it, the wife wanted it, and then the wife signed the petition or signed something, and then the husband's like, well, wait a minute, I don't want to, you know.
exactly.
So anyhow, I want to make it somewhere where it's a broader scope. It better grasps the number of individuals that are going to be impacted by it than just, you know, whatever the process we had before.
The process we had before is the same process that's used by Palm Beach Gardens. The only different in the process for Palm Beach Gardens is that they bring in a committee to review the request, and the committee's made up of the police chief, the fire chief, the public works director. But in terms of the basics of who gets asked, how far out the affected circle of influence is all pretty much exactly the same. I know that there are a lot of other municipalities in the county that have copied Palm Beach Gardens. So the question really becomes for you guys, who do you want involved? In Venetian, it's a dead end street. Maybe those 16 homes are just fine. On Westlake, there's a lot of traffic. And how much of those folks do you want to have input into what's going on? There's another request on Westlake. It's down by the bridge. So, you know, those folks obviously don't think that there's sufficient support from the one up the road a quarter mile to help them out. So I really need some guidance on you guys as to helping me. I can put anything down. My experience tells me that what we have is sufficient for minor roads. If we want to do some separation or segregation on how we look at Pine Tree and Westlake as opposed to how we look at the other roadways, I'm open for that type of discussion. And I'm happy to do this one-on-one with each of you to get some better ideas and understandings. In terms of rebuilding the speed bumps into speed tables, we've done that anywhere that we've repaved the roadways. The north end had several speed bumps. We changed those to speed tables. So that's happening in the process of milling and repaving that we have going on in the town. In terms of where we should have them or why we should have them, staff doesn't have the expertise to be able to decide that. We'll have to, if we're talking about taking some out or putting some in, I think we would have to hire a traffic engineer that could provide us some guidance on why. Because we take one out and suddenly somebody's speeding and causes an accident. they're going to want to know why we took that out and what our thought process was and what our justification was. So I think we need some greater expertise than what staff has to be able to make those decisions.
What, if we follow Palm Beach Gardens and we keep that, but we essentially, you're saying we're similar to Palm Beach Gardens, but we don't have this committee. What's currently in this process that prevents there being 15 speed tables on any of our roads?
Just the fact that the decision on approval and the decision on approval of financing for installation comes back to council. So staff doesn't make any decisions on whether it's the right thing to do. All staff says is we've gone through this process. Here's the information that we have. 65% or 85% of the residents within 10 homes each direction of where this hump is going to go have agreed that it's okay. Not everybody agrees. I mean, you have people that don't want humps anywhere. So I take that information along with a cost estimate and I bring it to you guys and say, is this what you want to do? That's what happened on Westlake, and you voted to move forward with it. When we got complaints about that speed hump was the time that we were looking at the speed hump on Venetian, and you asked us to suspend all activity.
Paul, Mayor, excuse me, just one thing. I think also what happened was that speed bump got stuck into our consent agenda, which maybe we shouldn't do anymore, because I honestly didn't pay attention, but had I had the wherewithal to think about that table out there, I would have had some debate with you all about it. But I think the approval got stuck in our consent agenda. I don't even remember when. I was going back at old consent agendas to look, but probably in the last year and a half or year. And I just, I think it kind of slipped by, and then we had the comments and stuff. So I'd like maybe there to be it not to be on a consent agenda, but it always to come in front of us.
I want to see this as an agenda item for next meeting, and we could further discuss what we'd like to see and consider this committee idea. Or what do y'all want to do?
Mr. Mayor, and just an idea to keep it as simple as possible, keep the current procedure for suggesting the speed bump, but it comes back to council so that we can all vote on a speed bump by speed bump basis. In the alternative, I think it would be a wise decision as a precursor to coming to council for a vote, if Ms. Adams would be so kind to sit on an advisory panel with Chief Smith and possibly our town manager as a advisory panel of 3, so that we have some sort of guidance before it hits our desk. I think that would be a good first step. So keep the current process, bring it into an advisory panel, and then we can vote on it.
Chief, do you have data with the speed table in place on Westlake? Do you have data to compare the average speed of cars or the frequency of speeding, or however you want to phrase it, pre-table and post-table?
No, I don't have that, but next month we'll have the statistics on the additional speed signs, because we can get that off the website that it goes to the cloud. But we do have one speed hump on Venetian. And one day, Dan and I spent half a day checking speed tables and stuff in West Palm, and we've talked about portable ones and different things like that to look at. But the issue, since I've been here for 20 years, is you accommodate a few people and then you end up with a lot of people upset. And you all may not get the complaints, but people do complain to the police department and maybe the town on the speed humps. But somebody gets one, then somebody else wants one. And on Venetian, which is a pretty good stretch, there is already one speed hump. And then where he's talking about, you go down further just before you split and to go around the loop. But the speeding, from what we've done with our statistics and everything, it's not really a serious problem. But if you live on a street and you see somebody speeding, you just see one or two cars, you think everybody's speeding. But statistically, last time we checked, I think we had 90,000 vehicles and majority of them, I think it was 94% or something was obeying the speed limit. So, but that doesn't mean people don't speed. You're going to have people speed.
I watch them speed. I watch them go the speed limit. Been doing that for a while.
You have to have training to judge speed. And when you go through radar laser school, that's the first thing you do is learn how to judge the speed like an engineer would do. But everybody interprets things different. What may be speeding to one person may not be an issue with another person.
Yeah.
So,
Mr. Mayor, just as we're concluding, an interesting creative idea. I know that West Palm Beach had proposed a bikeway along Flagler. And before they actually had any action, what they did was they used traffic cones to simulate kind of a mock-up of what it would be. So, a couple data points here. If we can do a temporary install to see what the feedback is, I'm just forecasting in the future. And that would be a good data point, because the residents that are not informed or weren't aware, it's a temporary speed bump, maybe with a little sign, just like as we have our hybrid meetings, says this is a proposed speed bump, come to our meeting, something. I don't know, just an idea.
A couple of items for clarification. Some of you have used the two terms interchangeably, speed bump and speed hump. We do not have any speed bumps in town. We have speed humps.
Thank you for the clarity.
And there is no moratorium. It's not an ordinance, it's a policy. The policy was suspended.
Thank you, Charlie. All right. Right. That's why he's our town attorney.
Words matter.
Let's just have something put back before the council for further discussion on next meeting. I think that sounds prudent, yeah?
Yes.
All on board?
So moved.
Yes, thank you.
All right. I don't think we need a motion for it, but
Just in case.
I appreciate it. All right. As to Mr. Kulkarni. So I like your idea on resetting up the dais. I don't know why we're still like this, other than I see everybody has a lot more space, right? I don't know if anybody has a problem with moving that to the corner either. That to me isn't a problem. With regard to the time limits, and if you're just suggesting we make it 5 minutes. I mean, you said you weren't comfortable with 25, what you heard at the workshop, where it was an open discussion. And then you're saying, well, 5 minutes. Every municipality that I'm aware of, it's 3 minutes. I don't know where 3 minutes came from. I don't know why it's not 2. I don't know why it's not 5 or 10. I just know that it's 3 minutes. So if you're asking us to consider expanding that to a certain minute mark, I'm sure the council can further discuss it. But and Mr. Clark can further expand on the setup and why we are doing it this way now, despite essentially the COVID restrictions being gone. Mr. Clark.
Well, as you can see, I can't get this equipment up on the dais, and I need this to run the meeting. So we might be able to move the chief and Mary back up on the dais, and Charlie for that matter. There are some issues with the sound system that we'll have to reconfigure. Those microphones up there have a special filter that minimizes feedback. There are only 8 filters allowed, so we'll work on reconfiguring that. But I don't see how this goes back up on the dais.
All right, thank you. All right. Ms. Shanowski is gone, but as far as I understand, on that issue, you read the agenda and you have a question, contact the town, right? The same thing, you and I, Mr. Kulkarni, have talked many times about this. This is not your only time to contact the council or talk to anybody up here or town staff. Every time, every meeting, I feel like I encourage everyone to call me, email me, text me, message me, whatever. And there's plenty of residents that take me up on that. Miss Prenzy, by way of example, is one of them. I advise her, look, you talk to me. If you don't make the comment at the meeting, I'll take care of it for you. That's the type of relationship I want to have with the residents. You know, getting up here and you know, only wanting to talk at the meeting, okay, but that's not your only opportunity. So for all of those who are still listening online and here, thank y'all for being here. If you want further discussion, you want a bunch of questions answered, contact us. If we don't have the answer, then maybe we'll have it by the time the meeting starts. But at least you're going to have a discussion going before your 3 minutes start or before the audience comments. To me, if I wanted, but before I became on council, if I had a question, I did not come to the meeting to ask the question. I contacted Dan or a member of the council. That's the way it should be, right? You should come here. We want to hear what you have to say. If you want a dialogue of question and answer, or, you know, ask, you know, well, even despite this language and even despite that language, whatever you want to do, I'll have that discussion with you gladly. But let's do it when we're not at the meeting. If you want to have us give us comments, come and give us comments. It's 365 days a year. I have my cell phone on me 365 days a year. You can reach me. I'm very, very reachable, as I believe everyone on this dais is. And I know we all have plenty of stories where residents contact me or contact you at any given hour and any given day. I'm getting text messages and phone calls on Saturday evenings about issues that residents are having, right? They're not waiting to come to a meeting on the second Tuesday of the month at 6:30. And I'm so happy that they're not. So just keep that in mind. There's no need to ever wait to ask a question or bring an issue to anyone's attention on this dais or the town. 561-644-8845, 365 days a year. Dan, I don't know what the issue was with the agendas, but to the extent that we are lacking, please look into it. I don't think that we are, but if you could just see what was published and follow that and see if we missed something so that residents can be apprised of fully what's on the agenda, that'd be much appreciated.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, there's a whole bunch of copies of this resolution.
There were copies out there. Mary, didn't you put copies of everything that we were doing today?
Anything that has to do with an ordinance or a resolution, we have copies out there for the audience.
Right. This is why I said it should be outside. So I don't know, maybe the number of
Find out.
attendees took them all, but all right. So what are y'all's thoughts on this chicken idea? 2 chickens, no roosters, purpose of harvesting eggs. Yeah, yes, Chief.
I will tell you from talking with other police chiefs, you're opening up a can of worms and having chickens, because the next thing you're gonna have, everybody's gonna want chickens and roosters. Next thing you're gonna be Palm Springs. They got hogs and goats and.
They're already on.
There's hogs and goats in Palm Springs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chief, there's 4 chickens walking around on every morning on a regular daily basis. I go that way every single morning.
Yeah, you may
And
see
they're there
them, but
already.
I'm not aware of anybody. I'd be interested in.
I think they came from Palm
where
Springs,
they're in
possibly.
cages and stuff, but my personal opinion is you're going to create a lot of aggravation. You know, you got to worry about smell, cleaning the cages, and not everybody does things the same. Some may do it and some may not do a good job of taking care of the chickens.
Right.
We don't have a chicken problem that I'm aware of.
Right.
I do. I eat too much of it.
But I understand, people's cultures and stuff, but I think I wouldn't allow it, but it's your decision, But that's my recommendation from talking with other police chiefs, because I've had them reach out, hey, you got a chicken? Wow, man, we got roosters, and even though she's not having a rooster, eventually somebody may have a rooster because they want more chickens.
Right.
And you better not call them chickens because roosters are chickens. They're hens and roosters.
Yes.
Okay.
And maybe
attorney.
if you're going to consider this, if you're going to allow chickens, you allow them only as, if they approve one, you have to eliminate one Muscovy duck.
Wow.
Well,
Maybe three.
Charlie, I think Rooster's job in life is to find the hens.
Yes.
Why did the chicken cross the road? To avoid the speed bump.
Oh, no, it's getting really late.
Full circle
All
there.
right.
All right.
Anyhow, food for thought going forward, gentlemen.
Food for thought.
Did I cover everything?
I put my notes away, but
I think I covered. Oh, yeah, between all the counts, I think we discussed everything. If not, please reach out to me and we'll be sure to address it in the interim between now and the next meeting. Want to congratulate Mr. Freebold. He is going to be newly re-elected, I should say, to the town council.
Thank you, sir.
He had no opposition filed against him by noon today. I myself did draw an opponent. Is Mr. Maples online?
He was earlier. Yes, he is.
Well, Mr. Maples, welcome to the meeting. I look forward to campaigning in the coming months. I spoke with Mr. Maples after I got word. We had a very nice conversation. He's very pleased with my service to the town and all the work that I've done over the years. So I think we're going to have an interesting election coming up here in March. So with that, have a happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Eat more than you can handle. Don't feel guilty about it. Enjoy the holidays and stay safe. Take care. I'll take a motion.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Now you're gonna have another meeting, don't you, Pete?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
That's just for the, yep. I know.
All right. Go. Boom, bada, bada, bing, baby.
All right, we're calling to order the Town of Lake Clark Shores CRA meeting for November 15, 2022. Call to order. Or sorry, roll call.
Sorry, hold on. Chairman Paul Shalhoub,
Present.
Vice Chairman Robert Shalhoub,
Here.
Commissioner Gregory Freebold,
Here.
Commissioner Valteen Rodriguez, Commissioner Robert Gonzalez.
Here.
I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
So.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Motion to approve consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. No presentations, no new business. Any audience comments? Anything mailed in, emailed in?
No, sir.
Any commissioner comments? Nope.
Elizabeth.
All right. Take a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Have a good evening, everybody.